What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Films by Color, where we talk about all things physical media and collecting, especially boutique releases, Blu-rays and 4Ks from the boutique labels. And we are still right in the middle of a boutique 50% off sale at Barnes & Noble this month. Arrow Video sale is still going on. It actually goes on all the way until the middle of September. September 14th is the last day. I've been hearing from you guys in the comments section about all the cool stuff you've been picking up. I really enjoy seeing what you guys are grabbing, and I always appreciate the recommendations. I've got a few titles that I've been watching at my house here, some Arrow Video titles. I'm going to talk about all of these with you today. Some I liked more than others, but I'll give you my thoughts on them and see if it inspires your shopping at all during the sale. We still got a lot of time left in the sale, and we still have a giveaway winner to announce. One lucky winner will be taking home 2 titles from this Arrow Video stack right here. I'll be announcing that at the end of this video, so make sure you stay tuned to the end. But before that, let's talk about some Arrow titles. All right, guys, let's dive right into the stack. I've got 5 titles that I've been watching recently. I'm just going to go in the order that I watched them, starting right here with The Cell, the 4K limited edition of The Cell that came out just earlier this year. This is a brand new release. I missed it when it came out, but I was happy to watch it this month during the sale. I'm a huge fan of The Fall. If you just saw my Umbrella video, you know I picked up the 4K special edition of The Fall. Love this movie. One of my favorite movies, probably my favorite movie from the year 2006. I love the director, or at least I love his direction in this film. I love the cinematography in that film, but I had never seen any of his other films, so I wanted to check out The Cell. This was his debut feature. The director I'm talking about is Tarsem, or Tarsem Singh. He goes by both names, and very, very interesting, unique director. He's really the reason to watch this. The Fall, I think there's many reasons to watch, because I love the story, I love the acting, and I love the cinematography and his direction. Here, that is why you're there. You're there for the stunning, interesting, crazy, chaotic visuals. That's really the standout. It's a pretty standard, like, crime procedural story. Well, I won't say it's a standard procedural story. It's a sci-fi procedural, so it's pretty unique in that way. But as far as the execution itself, how it feels, it kind of feels like a standard police story. You're following an FBI agent played by Vince Vaughn, who goes to Jennifer Lopez, who is using this new experimental technology to go into the minds of comatose patients in order to try to wake them up. And they've got a serial killer who has gone into a coma. There's a lot of details I'm leaving out, but serial killer's in a coma, and they need Jennifer Lopez to go in and wake him up or extract the information because he has someone kidnapped. He has a young girl kidnapped, and they need to figure out where she is because she's in danger. So very interesting sci-fi twist on a standard crime procedural. I kind of wish there was a little bit more with Jennifer Lopez and Vince Vaughn. They get one nice scene together where they both have trauma in their backstories, and you can see why they're doing what they're doing. But it is mostly plot-driven, just to try to get to the serial killer's mind so we can see all these interesting visuals that Tarsem has in his brain, inspired by fine art and all kinds of different influences that he has. This also has the costume designer, Eiko Ishioka, I believe is how you pronounce her name. She also did the costume design in The Fall. She did the full production design for Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters, which I watched recently, and that is another stunning production. And she also did the costume design in Bram Stoker's Dracula and won the Oscar for it. She's an incredible designer. So her design mixed with Tarsem's ideas and visuals in this is just stunning to watch. I really enjoyed this. Like I said, I wish there was a little bit more emotional investment in this, but you're there for the visuals, you're there for the fun ride. It does get very dark, so fair warning, it's very violent. He does kind of want to shock you at the beginning with how grotesque the murders that he commits are, because he doesn't want you to be laughing later in the movie when we get inside his head and we see all these flamboyant, over-the-top costumes that Vincent D'Onofrio is wearing, which I haven't even mentioned yet. Vincent D'Onofrio is the best thing about this movie. He gives an incredible performance. He is the serial killer. We see his backstory with his dad. We see the trauma that has made him into a serial killer, and seeing all that played out with these creepy, like horrifying visuals with like dolls and costumes and capes and horns and like all of this crazy costume design that he's put in, and he never bats an eye at it. He never is too good of an actor for the silliness of it. He plays it straight, and it's a lot of fun. Nothing too spectacular, but a fun procedural adventure. I'll definitely be holding on to this and keeping it in the collection because I'll probably watch it again someday. And it's one that I would like to show other people and see their reactions to some of the crazy stuff that happens on screen. It is a limited edition, and Arrow Video knocks it out of the park with their special editions. Their supplements, their special features are always definitive. Like Arrow puts out definitive releases. They don't always fit into my wheelhouse. I don't find myself going to their catalog a lot, but when they do put out a movie that you like, you gotta pick up their release because they put so much work into the special features. They brought back the director for like a full hour-long conversation. There's a bunch of other stuff going on in the special features, so check out the website if you're interested in that entire list. I had a good time with it. I also didn't have a disc problem. There was a disc error on that, and I think they've already straightened that out, so my copy was fixed. So don't worry about that if you're buying from Barnes & Noble. And we'll jump into my next pick. On the other end of the spectrum, we talked about an R-rated crime thriller. Now we're going to go to a family film from the great director Martin Scorsese. This is Hugo from 2011. I picked this up a while ago. This is not one that I picked up this month. I've had this for a while. I finally got a chance to rewatch it. And the reason I picked it up right away was because I remember loving this movie in the theater. This is a celebration of film movie like a lot of directors like to do. Martin Scorsese does it best, in my opinion. This is a celebration of Georges Méliès, who is a French director who really kicked off everything. He worked in the early 1900s and at late 1800s, actually. He was one of the first directors to really bring film to life. He was a stage actor and a stage director first, and he found out about cameras and he immediately started making films. He had his own studio where they would shoot everything in-house in this big glass building. So much fascinating film history that can be learned from this film. And the reason it resonated with me so much when the first time I saw it in 2011 was because I was in college and I was taking a film class, a visual effects class, and Méliès is considered the father of visual effects. He came up with the original jump cut. He's the creator of the jump cut, and he's got all of these other visual effects that are credited to him. And I had just come out of a class learning about that, and then this film comes out, and I didn't know what it was going in, but I was immediately sucked in, and I absolutely loved it. How does it hold up over a decade later? I still really, really enjoyed this film. I loved it quite a bit. I will say that I don't think I can ever give it a 5-star rating because it is a kid's film. And that's not a bad thing. I think it's actually great that Scorsese went all the way and committed to the bit and made it a full-on kids film, because I would love kids to find this movie and gain a whole love of classic film because of this movie. I think that's what Scorsese's trying to do. He's trying to get young people into classic film like he is. He loves the history of film. He's so knowledgeable. And if any kids watch this and get curious about 20s and 30s and 40s films because of this movie, that's great. So I'm glad it is a kid's film, but it does feel like a family film. So it wears everything out on its sleeve. It explains all of the themes to you. There's lots of dialogue that tells you what you're supposed to take away from it. There's a lot of shots that focus in on exactly what you're supposed to be looking at. So it is hand-holdy because it's a kid's film. And I love that. And I love what this film looks like. This is Martin Scorsese's first and I think only ever 3D film. He always wanted to make a 3D film. He was always a fan of 3D, all the way back to the first big 3D craze in the 50s, and then it came back later in the 80s, and then this is the third big boom of 3D in the late 2000s. We had Avatar, we had Gravity, and we had this from Martin Scorsese. This is my favorite of the three. This is beautiful looking film. It is very digital looking, but it's intentional because it's a 3D film. And I think this is one that you haven't really seen it unless you've seen it in 3D. I did watch it in 3D, and that's what's great about this Arrow Video release is it includes the 4K version right there, and then it also includes the Blu-ray 2D and 3D, and then it has another Blu-ray with bonus features. Again, completely definitive release. All of the shots in this film are made to be in 3D, all the way from the opening shot where you're going through the subway station, the train station where Hugo lives. He's an orphan, he lives in this train station, and you're going straight through, and there's just people flying by on all sides. So many shots that are enhanced by the 3D. If you can find a way to see it in 3D, I highly recommend it, because I was watching the beginning again with like the commentary track on afterwards with the 2D version, and it was not as good. It does not put you in the film as much as the 3D version is. I'm so happy that Arrow included that. I think that's amazing. This is the definitive release. I'm going to get rid of my old Blu-ray back there because I don't need it anymore, because now I have everything I could want for this release. Like I said, it's a celebration of film, specifically Georges Méliès. If you're into that early 1910s, 1920s short films, trick films as they were called, especially in Georges Méliès's case. But it's also just a really nice family film about an orphan, and the cast is great. You got Asa Butterfield, Chloe Grace Moretz. You've also got Ben Kingsley playing Georges Méliès, and it's just a really heartwarming story with some incredible Martin Scorsese visuals. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to make a movie, and this is kind of like his only family film. So if you are younger and you want to get into Martin Scorsese, maybe start with this one. I had a great time with it. I really liked revisiting that. Absolutely going to be holding on to that one. That's probably the favorite of this whole video, but I enjoyed some of these other ones too. So let's go ahead and jump into the next one. Taking another pretty hard pivot from a big budget Hollywood film by one of the most famous directors of all time to a very low budget Spanish film from a first-time director. This is the film debut of Chema Garcia Ibarra, and it is The Sacred Spirit. This is one that I absolutely wanted to watch this month. I was very interested in this earlier in the month when I checked Arrow Video's website before the sale started. This is a brand new film from 2021. Like I said, it's his debut feature. He has made some short films before this, and they're all included on this set. Because Arrow does such definitive sets, you've got 2 discs, and one of them is full of bonus features in all of his previous short films. This is a very low budget film shot mostly with non-actors in his very small Spanish town. This cover is a little deceiving, I will say. Don't base your expectations based on this cover. It looks amazing. I love what the cover looks like. But like I said, this is a much more lower budget film. It takes place in a very small town where a girl has gone missing. We are following her uncle, who is a part of this UFO group of conspiracy theorists, and it's kind of a little culty. He's kind of in this weird group. There's a little bit of dark comedy. Not much though. I don't want to sell this as a comedy because it's very bleak. It's very dark. We've got a missing child, actually multiple children kidnapped in this film. The comedy, I guess, would come from just the absurdity of these conspiracy theorists. But like I said, it gets very bleak. But we've got some commentary here on cult-like communities and human gullibility, and people in certain situations need these grander narratives to add purpose to their life, and how they're willing to do some pretty abominable things because they think they're doing it for something good, because they've been manipulated. And this here is kind of what they think they're involved in. And I don't fault Arrow or the artist for advertising the movie like this, because I have no idea how you would advertise this movie. I'm having a hard time even talking about it without giving too much away. I don't want to spoil it, but if it sounds interesting at all, if you like very low budget films, it's not flashy. There's not really any camera work or camera moves. Everything is pretty much just locked off on a tripod. Very stage play, people just sitting in rooms talking, non-actors. It does have kind of a very simple authenticity to it. Every once in a while you'll get a moving tracking shot, and it kind of jolts you out. And I think it's used that way on purpose to really like get your attention when that does happen. But yeah, very small, simple film, but I think pretty powerful by the end. So check out The Sacred Spirit if you're into anything that I just mentioned. It's another definitive release with all of his short films and a bunch of interviews and all kinds of special features. Great job. I love that a little festival darling like this got the boutique treatment from Arrow Video. So good job, Arrow. I enjoyed it. Next up, we've got another dark and gritty crime thriller starring Al Pacino from the year 1980. This is William Friedkin's Cruising, and this is a beautiful release from Arrow Video. They gave it the deluxe hardbox treatment with the booklet and everything inside. Really love this release. They even did a little extra texture on the slipcover for this one. Has like a leather texture to it because this is a crime thriller about Al Pacino going undercover. He's an undercover cop, and he has to go in and infiltrate the New York City gay leather bar scene to find a serial killer who is targeting gay men. So he has to go completely undercover. There are lots of scenes shot in actual gay bars from the time. This is 1980, so speaking of that feeling of authenticity from The Sacred Spirit, this also has that. He's really trying to put you into a certain community, a certain location, very specifically using real locations to do that, and it feels very, very authentic from the period, 1980, but it feels like a 70s movie. I mean, you're right on the cusp. It's shot in the 70s, very 70s camera work and cinematography, and just a real like naturalistic grittiness that feels very 70s. So if you like that kind of filmmaking, you're probably interested in this one. And it's also William Friedkin, who people are very familiar with, cult classic, fan favorite director. The 70s is not a decade that I'm very familiar with myself, but I've been trying to branch out and watch some more 70s movies lately. I mentioned on the channel recently that I just watched The Tenant, which is a 70s movie by Roman Polanski. And then I also watched The Conversation recently, Gene Hackman, and this feels very similar to those. Those are both also kind of crime stories in a way. I will say though, what I loved about those two films specifically is how much they put you inside the character's head. You see the world the way they see it. You're dealing with the trauma that they're dealing with. Here, Al Pacino's a little bit more standoffish. You're kind of just seeing this like a fly on the wall in a crime procedural. You're not really inside Al Pacino's head. He starts to get a little overwhelmed with the situation and starts cracking a little bit, but you don't really know where he's coming from. I don't feel like I ever got a full handle on his character. If you like crime procedurals though, and psychological thrillers, I'm sure this will appeal to you. Friedkin seemed a little bit more interested in just putting you in a time and a place and a setting and creating that atmosphere than putting together like a very personal story about this character like I felt The Conversation and The Tenant did. Not to compare this to other movies, I know that's not fair, but that's what I've been watching recently, so those were kind of in my head while I was watching this. I still enjoyed the ride. I enjoyed the cinematography and the camera work. It looks great, especially the 4K restoration that Arrow did on this. Looks really, really nice, and there is some ambiguity that happens toward the end that did pull me back in a little bit. I was starting to glaze over a little bit because serial killer movies and crime thrillers are not usually my cup of tea, but William Friedkin was able to keep me in it, and I think there are some interesting stuff in there. This was very controversial when it came out. Obviously, certain people were upset that he was even making a movie about this topic, but then the gay community was also upset with him because they thought it painted the community in a bad light. So this kind of got buried for a long time because both sides were pretty upset with Friedkin for making this movie, but it's been reappraised now. It's got cult classic status. Arrow Video has put out this lovely, like, big box set edition, and a lot of people love it now. So if that sounds interesting to you, maybe check that one out. That's Cruising from William Friedkin. And then we've got one final film here, another psychological thriller. I knew nothing about this one. This was actually sent to me by a subscriber, so thank you so much for that. It is called Unman, Wittering, and Zygo, and it is directed by John McKenzie, another crime director who went on to make The Long Good Friday after this. This stars David Hemmings right there on the front. He is a school teacher, a schoolmaster at a British all-boys school, and he's just starting. He is replacing the last teacher who has had an unfortunate accident, has passed away. Now they're replacing him with David Hemmings' character. And on his first day on the job, he's immediately butting heads with these teenage boys. They're unruly, they're undisciplined, they don't listen to him at all. And they tell him that the previous teacher's death was not an accident. They, in fact, killed him. And he needs to listen to what they have to say and go along with how they want things to go. Great premise for a psychological thriller. He's being manipulated by the boys. He can't really find anyone to talk to. They've got kind of the perfect crime situation. They've all got alibis. I won't say where it goes, but if you like psychological thrillers, very, very uncomfortable, unnerving atmosphere in this one, especially because they're children. There's some horrible things that happen in this movie. Very dark. This is not a strong recommendation. This is not a recommendation for everyone. This is a very specific kind of viewer. Turning knots in your stomach with some of the things these boys do. But I kind of was on the edge of my seat the whole time, even though it is a very slow burn. Not a lot happens out here, but a lot happens up here in the teacher's head as he's kind of unraveling and starting. Very similar, I guess, to Al Pacino's Cruising, but very British. These polite British boys very calmly threaten this teacher with no with no outward malice at all, and it's very disturbing, very unnerving. The story I was reminded the most of while watching this was, of course, The Lord of the Flies. Very similar stories. This is the 1950s film in the Criterion Collection. Just as horrifying and disturbing as this story, even more so though, because they're older boys, they're late teenage boys, and capable of so much more. There's so much really hardcore bullying in this, giving into peer pressure, mob mentality, groupthink. It explores all of that. And the fact that it does it with these young boys is all the more disturbing. I will say I thought the first two acts were a lot stronger than the third act. I wasn't really satisfied with that third act. At the end of the second act, you feel like, oh man, all bets are off. There's a really shocking moment and oh man, I have no idea where this could go from here. But then the third act just kind of, I thought, just kind of came to a halt and didn't really deliver. Maybe that'll be improved on repeat viewings. I'm not sure. I don't want to say enjoyed the experience, but I got a lot out of the experience. It gave me a lot to think about. I feel like this one would have been one that came out under the Arrow Academy banner back when they used to have two separate labels. But I like that they're releasing both under one banner now. They don't really have just a specific niche. Arrow's branching out, and they're putting out a lot of different kinds of films to appeal to different kind of viewers. And I'm sure my British viewers will be much more familiar with this story. This is a very famous story in England. It's based on a stage play, and I think there's a radio play, excuse me. It's based on a radio play, and there's a couple different adaptations of it. I think this is the only film adaptation, but it's a very famous story. And I gotta say, I love this cover. I'm usually not a fan of like photoshopped covers. I usually like original artwork, but after you see this movie, look at this cover. I was just looking at it for like 5 minutes earlier because there's so much interesting stuff done with the placement of the characters on this cover that directly builds off of the scenes in the film. It's such a well done cover. I don't know who did this, but I was very impressed with that. There's also a lot of special features on there, including the entire radio play version. You can listen to that on the disc. There's a lot of interviews and a commentary and everything. So hopefully that gives you some inspiration for your shopping for the rest of the sale. I tried to hit as many different kinds of films as I could, but mostly I just wanted to watch these films because I was interested in them. So that's what I've been watching. So that's what I'm talking about. Maybe I'll do another one of these before the sale is over if I get a chance to watch more Arrow video titles, but thank you so much for listening. Now let's go ahead and get into the giveaway. All right, I've got the random YouTube comment picker up on my screen, pickawinner.co, not a sponsor, but it's just the first one that comes up when you Google, and I'm gonna load all the comments in, and I'm gonna pick a winner right now, and the winner is 6am_YT. And they picked Demolition Man and Barbarella from the stack. So I'm gonna pull those out. We've got Demolition Man and Barbarella. And there you go. These are gonna be sent your way, 6 a.m. Make sure you message me on Instagram at Films by Color. Send me your address and I'll box these up and ship them right to you. And we've still got half of September left. The sale doesn't end until September 14th. So keep those recommendations coming down in the comments below. I'll talk to you down there as always. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, keep collecting.